everyone, and welcome to another edition of Black Matt's Black Legion blog. Guys, Chidaddy here. This one's for you. You wrote in and you asked about how to paint Nurgle or some Nurgle tactics, and lucky for you, I have the most experience with Nurgle. Before I did the current army that I'm working on, I started out in my little Chaos adventure with Nurgle, so I have a whole Death Guard army, including everything from a couple of rhinos, some lords, heavily converted lord, I call him a slug lord, to a defiler, to a dreadnought. I have quite a bit. So I'm pointing this out, and I'm gonna do some up close shots to show you guys just exactly what I'm painting. This is just a plague barrel that I did, and I want you guys to pay close attention to the green armor. And it's not so evident on this one, or perhaps on this one, but if you look at the lower half of his legs, the shins of his legs, I'm going to show you how to do that. I call it like bruising, and normally with painting you highlight up, and that's kind of how I would describe this art all about, but this is a little bit different. I went down, so that doesn't make any sense, but it'll all explain itself when I give you a step-by-step tutorial on how to do it. Then the rusty metal on the blades and the metal part, that's real easy. I'll just show you how to do it. I'm gonna pull out, and I'm gonna focus in on a couple of my rhinos, and now you can see it much more clearly. You can see I call it a bruising. You know, I don't know what else to call it. It looks like just some bits of corrosion, and you can see that it's random. Now the darker stuff around the bolts, that's an outside layer. Again, but I'm getting ahead of myself, and I'm going to give you some advice on how to do certain aspects of this. What you're going to need, your regular paintbrush, but you'll need these paints, and this is it, 4 of them. It's kind of like at the back of a GW kit where they say you'll need these 3 paints, and then you look at the model and you know that's bullshit. But this is all you'll need for doing the basic part of the Plague Marines. The metal will be these 2, bolt gun metal, chestnut ink, and then for the armor, if you're wanting to do a green style armor, and that has its drawbacks, which I'll mention here in a second, are the rotting flesh, the camo green, and the chestnut ink. If you don't have chestnut ink, a brown ink will work, or I've never tried green inks or anything other than that, but I've only used brown or chestnut, so that's what I suggest. About the drawbacks of painting Nurgle, it's very difficult and to go in and win a painting competition if that's what you're interested in. It's really nice, and I'm holding the camera up really close and you can see all the attention to detail that I've put into it, but most paint judges are going to walk right by it. And I'll do just a small comparison. If you're judging 30 armies in a tournament and they have, let's say 50 figs, average 50 figs per army, you're not going to have your attention drawn to it most likely by this. But instead, if you walk by that, you're going to say, whoa, and you're going to sit and pick it up. So that was much easier to win paint recognition for my Imperial Fists. So if you're going to paint Nurgle, you don't have to go green, but that's of course the traditional color, and it's kind of tends to be what I do a little bit. First things first, spray the model black. That's just how I feel. And then, take camo green and base coat all the armor parts, the parts that you want to be green. Now I've left a little bit out so I could come in and actually show you a piece, but I've done most of it. Okay, so wherever you want it to be not metal, pretty much. Remember, the Death Guard are very plain, unornamental chaps, so just get in there and do this. So now this is going to be covered a couple of times, so you don't have to be too clean. You can see I was just real quick in doing it, and in fact, if it's not consistent, it's that much is the better. Right, I've progressed the model a little bit, and I'm getting ready to show you the next step in what I do. So you went black, or primed it black, then did a base coat of camo green on wherever you want it to be greenish armor, and then I'm getting ready to do the metal. Normally I would pick out a lot more detail, but that's not really I'm not painting this model because I need it. So what I do first, okay, let's say look at this standard. I don't know how well you can see it or if you know it. It's got the symbol of Nurgle, you know, 3 circles in the middle with skulls on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is there's parts in there that I want to pick out now. I'm going to want them to be green and maybe a yellow. But what I'm going to do first, most of the icon is going to be metal. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put a big coat over everything. See, remember when I started this video I said that layering up is a big deal. You can come back through later and pick it out, but to get this rust effect you need to be really loose is how I say. There we go. Okay. This is the normal brush I use. Sometimes I don't do it. Alright, this is just going to be applied really generously because you want big dark lines. And this is going to go over both the metallic part and some of the green armor part. Now this is where I get the little bruising from. On the metals, I do it everywhere. You know, I get a nice big thick layer, you know, so it looks like rust. You know. I've gotten the model up to a specific point. I'm ready to move on to the next step. I noticed that I didn't have a backpack or a left-handed shoulder pad on it, so I put it on because I'm going to give this fig away here at the end. Alright, so remember, spray it black, base coat it with camo green on your armor, then come in and pick out all the metal parts with bolt gun metal, then wash everything, not dumping everything on, but very heavy on the metal parts and then intermittent on the armor parts to produce the bruising. What I'm going to do next is do a quick dry brush, and this is what gives it the rust effect on the metal. So I'm going to take an old crappy brush that I use for dry brushing. It's one like this, you know, coat the bristles, get a pad or a piece of paper, you know, and get most of it off, and then come in and do a very quick light dry brushing. That means that well, you'll see here what it'll do. It's going to cover up some of the parts that were covered in the inks, and so that makes it just look like the recesses are rusting, and that's what you want. And you do it very intermittently, so like, because it's you know, it's not uniform, so it's not like you have to do it. It's not like it's highlighting. You just come in and you just go crazy on it. Now you do this right now very specifically because on the armor, because on the hoses and stuff that are right next to the armor, it's alright to get some onto it. I mean, you want to limit it a little bit, but you're going to come in, our next step is going to be to take a very light coat of watered down rotting flesh and so what I'm doing here is I'm almost doing a wash. I'm taking some rotting flesh and I'm adding a lot of water to it. Not so that it's uncontrollable, but so that it's very thin. And you'll see here how transparent you can see through this rotting flesh. So this is going on everywhere where there was green armor. And I just take it and I'm working it around now. It's very fluid, so try and stay away from the cracks because it will pool in there and you'll be able to tell.